Once upon a time, in the quiet city of Enugu, there lived a woman named Amanda. She was 28 years old, soft-spoken and beautiful in a calm and innocent way. Her skin glowed like someone who still believed in love. Her dream was simple, to build a peaceful home with her newly wedded husband, Richard. Amanda met Richard in church 6 months ago. He was gentle, hardworking and deeply respectful. Their courtship was clean. Their wedding was celebrated with joy, and everyone said the same thing. You are lucky to have this kind of husband. Your marriage will be perfect. But it was not. It was far from perfect. Because behind every perfect man, there is sometimes a mother with a twisted heart. Amanda and Richard moved into a small 3-bedroom flat that belonged to his mother, Mama Richard. They were saving to build their own house, so Amanda didn't think much of it as it will help them save up and finish their own house faster. But from the very first week they moved in, Mama Richard inserted herself into everything. It started with the way she cooked for her husband, Richard. Why are you putting salt before crayfish? Why did you close the window? I like air. You call this soup? My son cannot eat this soup. At first, Amanda smiled through it all. After all, she believed she was raised to be patient. But by the 3rd month, her mother-in-law only grew worse and worse. You are enjoying marriage too much. When will I carry my grandchildren? Amanda began to feel pressured. She and Richard tried, month after month. Prayers, ovulation tracking, local herbs, but nothing worked. And slowly, Amanda noticed her husband pulling away from her. It started gradually. Richard started coming home later than usual. Sometimes, Amanda would wake up and find his side of the bed empty. He would claim he was praying or reading, even at 2 a.m. Other times, he would avoid her completely during her fertile days, claiming stress or tiredness. To make matters worse, Richard started sleeping in the guest room instead. But what Amanda found strange was that Richard's mother was often awake very late into the night as well. Amanda would often see her door slightly open, lights flickering behind the curtains. One night, Amanda gathered courage and asked Richard, "Do you still want to have a child with me?" He looked at her with blank eyes and answered, "I'm not sure you are the one meant to give me a child." Amanda's heart broke. Desperate and confused, Amanda visited Prophetess Gloria, a powerful woman of God known in Enugu. After the prayers, the prophetess opened her eyes slowly and stared at Amanda. "My daughter, you are not the problem." Amanda leaned forward curiously. "Is someone in your home? Someone very close? The seed is being taken before it reaches the womb." Amanda frowned. "What does that mean?" The prophetess shook her head slowly. "There is a woman, an older woman, carrying what should have been yours." Amanda left the church that day in confusion. The prophetess only spoke in parables. Could it be her mother-in-law? No, that was her husband's mother, the woman who called her daughter, the woman who cooked every evening and served both of them with smiles. But Amanda could not sleep that night. One early morning, Amanda woke up to pee. As she passed the corridor, she noticed the door to the guest room Richard sleeps in was closed. After she relieved herself, she felt it would be wise to meet Richard. It was her ovulation period and she was optimistic she can be pregnant this time. When she got to the door, she paused and knocked gently. There was no answer. She twisted the knob and saw that it was not locked, so she pushed the door open. And what she saw took her breath away. There on the bed was her husband, Richard, sleeping. And beside him, under the covers, was his mother. Their backs were turned. Her wrapper was off her body. Amanda dropped the cup in her hand and it shattered the moment it touched the ground, making a very loud noise. Richard jumped up and looked at the entrance. "Amanda," he called in shock. Amanda stepped back. She was shocked and lost for words. "You, both of you," she stammered. Mama Richard sat up, calmly covering her body slowly. "You have no child," she said coldly, So you have no right to raise your voice in this house. Amanda fell to her knees. Tears streamed down her face, not from pain, but from betrayal. Richard walked towards her, his eyes wide with fear. "You don't understand," he whispered. Amanda stood, her legs shaking. "You are right. I do not understand," she answered in a broken voice. Then she turned and walked out of the room. But she hadn't gone far before a loud noise was heard from the corridors. Amanda had collapsed and her head hit the ties. Everything went dark, and from the distance she could hear Mama Richard's voice. Amanda woke up on a hospital bed. Her head ached. The light above her felt like it was burning into her skull. She turned her face slowly and saw a nurse standing beside her. "You fainted," the nurse said gently, "but you are stable now." Amanda looked around. It took her a moment to remember everything: the door, the bed, her husband and his mother. She sat up quickly and asked, "Where is my husband? Where is my mother-in-law?" "I don't know who those people are, but a man that brought you in left," the nurse replied. "No one waited for you." Amanda's heart shattered again. She was alone. Later that evening, Amanda was about to sleep when the door creaked open. It was Mami Ifeoma, an old woman from her church, known for minding her business and speaking only when necessary. Amanda sat up. "Ma?" Mami Ifeoma pulled a chair and sat by her bed. "My daughter," she said softly, "you saw something you were never supposed to see." Amanda swallowed hard. "I do not know what to do," she answered. Mami Ifeoma looked into her eyes. "Let me tell you something. Your husband was given to the gods before he was even born." Amanda frowned. "What? You think his mother is just wicked?" "No, she's a gatekeeper. She was told by a native priest that the family bloodline must be kept pure, that no outsider must carry their child." Amanda shook her head confused. "But I am his wife." Mami Ifeoma sighed. "You are a stranger in their covenant, and to them, a stranger must never carry the seed of their chosen son." Amanda's lips trembled. "So she's sleeping with her own son, just to protect tradition?" "Yes," the woman replied. "But worse, she had performed sacrifices with him. She had tied his soul." Amanda covered her mouth with her hands in shock upon hearing this. Back in the village where Mama Richard was born, it was said that her first two sons died before the age of 5. Each time she lost them after they married women outside their tradition. So she ran to a shrine, a deadly one, and begged for protection. The priest told her, "Your womb has given birth to a chosen one, but if you allow him to plant his seed in a foreign soil, the tree would die." She asked what she must do, and the priest answered, "Wrap him with your own clothes." He said, "No womb shall carry his blood except yours." From that day, Mama Richard made a vow. Her son would never give child to any other woman, and no one must get pregnant for him. So when Richard fell in love with you, a Christian woman, a woman with no spiritual covenant, she smiled and played the part. But in her heart, she had already chosen to stop the marriage from producing fruit. Amanda returned home from the hospital 2 days later. She found Richard waiting in the living room. He looked worn out, his eyes swollen from sleepless nights. "Amanda, please listen." Amanda did not speak. She simply walked into the bedroom, packed her few belongings and came out. "Tell your mother," she said coldly, "that she can now carry twins for you." Richard dropped to his knees. "It's not what he looks like," he pleaded. Amanda turned sharply. "Then what is it?" she asked. "She raised me with fear. She told me I would die if I disobeyed. The first time, I was 18. I didn't know what she was doing. She said it was to protect me." Amanda suddenly felt sick. "You're not a boy anymore, Richard. You made your choice." She turned to leave, but he grabbed her hand. "I still love you," Richard confessed. She looked at him heartbroken. "Then fight for me," she finally said. Amanda left the house and stayed with a church sister. That same night, Pastor Boma visited and confirmed everything. Yes, she's doing spiritual rituals with your husband. She used something called blood binding, but the chains can be broken. How? Amanda asked curiously. Through deliverance, but only if he agrees. Amanda sighed. Would Richard agree? She asked herself. The next day, Amanda received a call. It was a strange number. When she picked, the voice was soft and calm. It was her mother-in-law. If you try to untie my son from me, she said, you will die before your next period. Amanda dropped the phone immediately. Her heart pounded like a drum. She knew now she was no longer fighting for her marriage. She was fighting for her life. The call from Mama Richard haunted Amanda's ears. It was not a threat. It was a prophecy spoken with calm, wicked confidence. Amanda has had many threats in her life, but this one felt different. It was not just words. It carried something dark, something ancient. She had no family in the city, no mother to cry to, no father to run to. All she had was herself and God. Amanda stayed with their church sister Esther that night. Around 2 a.m., she suddenly woke up sweating. She had a dream, or was it a vision? In the dream, she stood at the edge of a thick forest. There was a woman in white standing far ahead, tall, dark-skinned with fire in her eyes. The woman pointed behind Amanda, and when Amanda turned, she saw her own womb bleeding on the ground. She screamed and woke up. Esther rushed to her side. Are you okay? She said. Amanda shook her head, still terrified from the nightmare. She wants to destroy me. The next morning, Amanda went back to the house, not to beg or cry, but to end it once and for all. Richard was in the sitting room, drinking cold garri from a cup. He looked like a man already punished by his own choices. When he saw Amanda, he dropped the cup. Amanda sat down in silence. Richard, do you know what your mother has done to you? He nodded slowly. She told me from a young age that other women were jealous, that they would kill me. She warned me to never trust them. Amanda's eyes burned with tears. So she trained you to trust only her? He looked down shamefully. The first time she laid in my bed, I was 18. She said it was spiritual cleansing. I believed her. Every year, she said we must renew the bond. Amanda felt her stomach twist. This is not just wickedness. It is spiritual slavery. Richard's voice cracked. I know. Then leave. Break free. He looked up. She said she would die if I did. She said I would die. She said the gods would kill anyone who separates us. Amanda stood up. She's not God, and your mother cannot continue drinking poison and calling it protection. Richard wiped his tears. How do I break free? Amanda took his hand and told him, we're going to the church tonight. That night, at exactly midnight, Pastor Boma and 3 elders waited in the deliverance room. Richard entered, and as soon as the prayers began, Richard started screaming. The lights flickered, wind rushed through the windows. He dropped to the floor, convulsing, and from nowhere, his voice changed. It became deep and demonic. You cannot take him. He is mine. I fed him with blood, and I raised him in my womb. The pastors increased their prayers. Richard's body shook violently, and Amanda was crying loudly. Jesus, set him free, please, she cried. Suddenly, Richard let out a scream, and then there was silence. The room smelled of smoke and something ancient, like old clay. Pastor Boma wiped his face. It is done, he whispered. Richard opened his eyes some minutes later, weak but conscious. I saw her. I saw my mother standing in a red river, holding a rope tied around my neck. Amanda hugged him tightly. You are free. That same night, back at home, Mama Richard screamed in her sleep. She woke up bleeding from the nose. She stood and walked to her altar, a shrine hidden in her wardrobe. She lit candles and chanted, but the fire refused to rise. She screamed in anger. They have untied him.
Her voice echoed through the house, and then her chest tightened. She fell to her knees, alone and powerless, and her shrine caught fire. The next morning, Amanda and Richard stood at the gate of the family house. Smoke was still rising from Mama Richard's room. Neighbors were gathered outside, whispering. Richard stepped forward. He found her sitting on the floor. Her hair had turned white overnight. Her voice was low. "I have no more sons." Richard looked at her calmly. "I am not your son. I am a man and I belong to my wife." Amanda held his hand and they walked away together. Days passed, then weeks. The story of Amanda and Richard's deliverance spread like wildfire. Some people whispered in shock, others refused to believe it. How can a mother sleep with her son? But only a few persons knew the truth, and that was enough. After that fire incident, Mama Richard became a shadow of herself. Her once strong voice now shook like a child's. Her eyes were always wide, like she was seeing spirits. Richard visited her one last time. She sat in the same corner of her room, surrounded by ashes. Her shrine was gone, burnt to dust. "Why did you do it?" She looked at him with sad eyes. "I was afraid. They told me I would lose you, that other women would take you from me, like your brothers were taken." Richard sat down slowly. "But you took yourself from me." She reached out her hand, but he did not move. "I loved you too much." He shook his head in disagreement. "No, you bound me in the name of love and you nearly destroyed my life." He stood up. "I forgive you, but I will not return." Amanda returned to work. Slowly, she began to smile again. She and Richard started seeing a therapist together, a gentleman named Mr. Obinna, who helped them talk through the damage. At first, it was hard. Amanda would flinch when Richard touched her. She had nightmares and she questioned herself. But one day, during prayer, she cried deeply, not because she was weak, but because she was finally letting go. And that was the beginning of her healing. Richard too began to heal. He joined a men's fellowship at church. He told them the full story. Some men cried, others stared in disbelief, but he told the truth, all of it. "I was used. I was afraid and I stayed in bondage because I thought it was loyalty, but it was slavery." The pastors helped him rebuild his sense of manhood, one that was not tied to domination or tradition, but truth and spiritual freedom. 1 year later, Amanda stood at the back of a school hall. Children were singing. She was now volunteering at a girls' foundation, helping young girls who had been abused or silenced. She saw herself in them. Richard waited outside with a picnic basket. He smiled when he saw her. They had not rushed to have another child. Instead, they were rebuilding peace, laughter, and trust, one day at a time. A year and 6 months after the fire, Amanda received a letter. It was written with shaky hands. "My daughter, I do not expect you to forgive me. I destroyed something I was supposed to protect, but I pray God helps you heal completely. I wanted to protect blood, but I ended up spilling it. Please, don't let bitterness stay too long in your heart. Love, Mama Richard." Amanda folded the letter slowly. She did not cry. She did not smile. She simply said, "Amen." Richard and Amanda eventually adopted a baby girl named Grace. They raised her with joy and not fear. And each night, before Amanda slept, she would whisper a prayer. "May I never protect evil in the name of love." The moral lesson of this story reminds us that some traditions are built on fear, not truth. Some people destroy what they love because they are trying to hold it too tightly. But true love releases, heals, and chooses what is right, even when it is hard.